Joseph was sent to a place. Verse 12, his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. Why Shechem? Well, because that's where they were located. That's why they were located. That's where they were. And so he came there. Shechem was 60 miles from Hebron. It was named after Hamor's son, who was called Shechem. Hamor was a Hivite, or as the name means, villagers. Where did all these people come from? The Hivites and others. Well, if you note, and you can take the reference and read it later on, Genesis chapter 10, verses 6, and verses 15 through to verse 20. They were the descendants of Canaan, who was the son of Ham, who was the son of Noah. Remember when Noah fell into sin by being drunk? His son Ham committed sin by looking at his father's nakedness. You know, you can read that account in Genesis. And as a result of seeing his father's nakedness, we learn that the Lord chastised that line. And so his line, Ham's line, Canaan's line, was chastised. And so from Ham and then his son Canaan came families that became the enemies of God. And from this family line came the Philistines, the Hivites, and Shechem. Again, it's all there in Genesis chapter 10. So Shechem, one of these descendants of Canaan, of Ham, the son of Noah, they were idolaters. And as I said, Shechem was named after the son Shechem. Shechem was a dangerous place, a defiling place, a wicked place. It was known for sin. It was known for strife. Sin abounded in Shechem. There were the carnal passions and pleasures that flourished. Men lived for their lusts. Men lived for themselves. Remember, it was in Shechem that Jacob, years before, in Genesis chapter 33, verse 19, he bought a parcel of land. It was in Shechem, in Genesis chapter 34, where Jacob's daughter was defiled by Shechem himself. And then Jacob's sons in Shechem then disobeyed and committed horrendous sin that caused, remember, Jacob to say that you made me stink among the people in the land. So Shechem is associated with wickedness, with carnality. Shechem is not a good place. There's the pleasures, the practices, the pursuits, all of sin. Shechem caused much trouble to Jacob. Shechem caused much trouble to his sons. And I say that because now that place Shechem that is associated with wickedness, carnality, considered with pleasures, that's where Jacob's sons have now gone. And they've left Hebron. And they've gone to Shechem. And they've gone there in anger. They've gone there in hatred against Joseph's words. And therefore, Israel sends Joseph where? To Shechem. Go to Shechem and see whether it be well with thy brethren. Interesting to note, the name Hebron, that's where Joseph was with his father. That's where his brethren were. The name Hebron means fellowship. That isn't that interesting? Hebron means fellowship. The word Shechem means shoulder or saddle. The name gets its location from the mountains, the range, but also the picture is of a shoulder to carry something, to carry a weight. So the picture is that of a burden. And so Shechem is associated with wickedness, associated with the burdens of sin, the world. And therefore, Joseph leaves the place of fellowship with his father. He leaves Hebron to go to Shechem, a place associated with wickedness. It's interesting to note as well, in Joshua chapter 20, you read, and I encourage you to read Joshua 20, it's a wonderful chapter. In the life of Joshua, there were established what was called the cities of refuge. And there were 6 cities of refuge. And they were strategically placed among the whole land, that whenever someone was in need, whenever the law was after them, the manslayer, the avenger of blood, it would pursue them. And if it caught them, it would exact the punishment of the law and kill them. But if they fled to one of the cities of refuge, they would be safe. They would be secure. They would be protected. And isn't it amazing? Hebron Fellowship is one of those cities of refuge. Shechem was now named as one of those cities of refuge. And isn't that wonderful? To apply it to the life of Joseph, he left fellowship with his father and came to Shechem, a place associated with wickedness, to seek for his brethren, yea, to Jesus Christ. He left the splendor of glory, fellowship with his Father, to come into this world associated with wickedness and sin and vileness and rottenness, to be our fellowship back to God, to be our Shechem, to, in a sense, be our refuge for us in a place of sin, a place of immorality. We learn John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Christ said in John 5, verse 40, to the unbelieving Jews, ye will not come to me, that ye might have life. Christ is our city of refuge. Christ is the one who can lift us from the burden of sin, because God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And therefore the one who was rich for our sakes became poor. He left the splendor of heaven and came down to this world that despised him, rejected him, in order to be our Savior. Joseph left fellowship with the Father. He left Hebron at the Father's command to go to Shechem, a place associated with wickedness, to seek the well-being of his brethren. Jesus Christ left fellowship and came into this world associated with all its hatred, a world that knew not God, in order to save his people.